I think the best chance we have is trade. We think the administration is doing the right thing by trying to negotiate an agreement with Asia, an agreement with Europe. We're working on trying to bring together what we call Trade Promotion Authority. That makes it better for us to negotiate these agreements successfully and get them through Congress. And so that's an agenda where I think we see eye to eye on, because you know what? It grows the economy. It creates jobs. I mean, 1 in 5 jobs in America are tied to trade. And trade agreements help make sure we get a level playing field for our exporters, for our manufacturers. So we think that's good. And on tax reform, we're going to look for common ground, because also we think we got a really messed up tax code that needs reforming if we want to create jobs, increase take-home pay, and get America back in a competitive position.
Let's talk about tax reform first, if I could. You made some news today with reporters. You said you'd like to see something before the end of this summer. What does that mean? Is that business tax reform, a deal with this president?
Well, we want to reform the entire code for all people, businesses and individuals and families. The challenge, however, is that the president is not really interested in working on what we call individual tax reform, the individual side of the code, and that he says he's willing to work with us on business tax reform. So we're going to look and see what it is we can do on that front. But the key for us is small businesses have to be a piece of this puzzle. You can't just help corporations. You also have to help small businesses that aren't organized as corporations. And so we're going to explore common ground to see if we can make a difference on that. On the way toward what we would call comprehensive reform.
What are some of the possibilities there? Because I saw you in the hearing with Treasury Secretary Lew, this issue of these pass-through entities.
Right.
They're treated under the individual tax code right now. How can you bring them into the mix without, again, opening up the whole box of
it's a very good question. We have to look and see, are there other ways we can reduce their effective tax rates, make them more competitive, understand the nature of their businesses, and see if we can simplify the tax code on their side of the ledger, so we can make all U.S. businesses, big and small, no matter how they're organized, more competitive.
Could you carve out just their business income, maybe?
Well, I won't get into all the details because it's just premature to do that. But the point I'm trying to make is our current code is uncompetitive. It's holding us back. It's trapping money overseas. It's resulting in foreign companies buying U.S. companies, or even some U.S. companies inverting. And the only solution to that problem is to fix our tax system, and we're going to try and do that.
Can you give us some sense of the progress you've made today? You've had a couple hearings already, but privately, behind the scenes, do you think this administration is sincere in wanting to sit down and negotiate with you, Jack Lew and others?
Yeah, I think they do want to see if we can find common ground on business tax reform. Again, we want comprehensive tax reform. So we'll see if we can do part of that through business tax reform on the way to comprehensive tax reform. That's kind of the way we look at it. But on trade, which is coming sooner rather than later, we think there's definitely an opportunity for bipartisan agreement on that, because both sides of the aisle, the White House, the House Republicans, the Senate Republicans, know that trade can create jobs, help create more economic growth. And on tax reform, we're going to explore the possibility of coming to common ground. And the administration has been moving in our direction. Look, they first said only corporations and not small businesses. Now they're saying, okay, we can work on small businesses as well. So that's progress.
And you think it's got to get done in 2015 because you got a presidential election coming up?
Yeah, I just think, to be realistic, let's not just kick the can down the road and wait till the end. Let's try and do it as much as possible up front. And I do believe that, unfortunately, it's very frustrating to us that these political cycles seem to start earlier and earlier every time. Let's see realism for what it is, and let's try and get this done before the end of the summer. I would personally like to see it done, but if it slips a little bit, it does. But let's not think like that. Let's think about a sense of urgency, about jobs, about getting our tax code competitive, and there are a lot of issues that I think we can make a difference on in that.
50-50? Better than 50-50 on tax reform?
I'm not one of these people who puts odds on these things.
All right, but trade, you do seem more confident about trade, being able to work with this president. Have they done enough, the administration, to reach out to Democrats, the skeptical Democrats who seem to be the biggest problem?
You can't answer that question until you're starting to put the votes on the board. But I do think they have made a very full-throttle effort on this. They have a cabinet-wide effort to reach out to Democrats. But the president is going to have to deliver Democrats if he wants to see his trade agenda succeed. There's no two ways about it. So I think he's got some work to do on that front, because a lot of Democrats are sort of digging in and opposing the trade agenda. I think there's a lot of misperceptions out there as to what is actually happening. I think it's wrong for someone to come out against legislation that hasn't even been drafted yet, to come out against a trade agreement that hasn't even been negotiated yet. And so I would like to think a member of Congress is going to wait and reserve judgment until they see what's in front of them, and unfortunately some people aren't doing that.
There's some Democrats say, listen, you need to include currency language in here if we're going to back this kind of trade legislation. What do you make of that? Bringing this, adding in the notion of currency
there is some currency language in the existing framework that we were working off of that the administration agreed to. So there is an issue addressing currency. I think you had to watch how much currency you put into this. I think we have to be very careful that we don't want to put a provision in here that could trigger a trade war or tariff retaliations or jeopardize our standing as the preserver of the world's reserve currency. So I think there are a lot of issues we've got to be mindful of that aren't counterproductive. They don't kill trade deals. But let's make it clear, currency manipulation occurs. It's a problem. It needs to be addressed. We just have to figure out what's the best way to deal with it.
And Trade Promotion Authority legislation coming out of Ways and Means, timeline on that?
We don't have a specific timeline. We're hoping sooner rather than later.
All right. Let me ask you about another issue that's jurisdiction of the Ways and Means Committee. That's, of course, health care. We've got this Supreme Court challenge once again to the health care law, specifically the subsidy issue. If the ruling there goes against the Obama administration, what are you all planning to do in the Ways and Means Committee?
Well, right now we're doing contingency planning for just this. We think the responsible thing to do is to acknowledge that the court could tear down Obamacare in these 36 states and the District of Columbia. So we are putting together contingency plans for that so that we have an answer to help those states assist the people that are being affected by this whenever a ruling comes out. And that's something that we're working on right now. We don't have that answer prepared yet.
This is not a full-fledged replacement.
No, it's not a full-fledged. I wouldn't call it a tweak. It's what's the bridge out of Obamacare for the people in these states that just lost it. Getting rid of the subsidies is effectively getting rid of Obamacare. And so what we want to do is give the states freedom to let their people go into a patient-centered healthcare system, which will look like what we would ultimately like to replace Obamacare with at the end of the day.
All right, let me ask you about a couple other issues. You chose not to run in the 2016 presidential race, so you could focus on issues in the Ways and Means Committee. What's the one question Republican candidates need to answer right now if they're thinking about running?
Just what's their vision for the country? What's their vision for the future? I think we owe the country an alternative. I think a lot of Americans don't like the direction the country is headed. A lot of people are worried about the future. A lot of people don't believe that the American idea is there for them anymore. And I worry about that, and everybody should be worried about that. And so what we, as the alternative party, need to offer are what are our alternative ideas? What's our vision for getting people out of poverty, for upward mobility, for better take-home pay and faster economic growth and job creation? You know, getting this country back on track, making us more secure. They have to show the agenda and the vision for what a new president can do to fix this country's big problems. I think I can make a big difference on that right here in Congress, focusing on where I am, and that's why I made the decision that I made. But those people, and a lot of them are friends of mine running for president, it's their job, if they want to be president, to show the country what it would look like under their presidency.
Is that nominee, whoever it may be, going to have to be able to show the country that the Republican Party has some plan to deal with income inequality?
Yeah, through economic growth and upward mobility. I mean, look, the goal shouldn't be to sit in Washington and pick winners and losers and redistribute some fixed pie. The goal should be to grow the pie for everybody. We don't want to embrace our version of envy economics. We want to embrace opportunity economics. We are an ambitious, self-sufficient, optimistic people, and our policies should reflect that. We want to have policies that reignite upward mobility and opportunity and give everybody the right to rise, give everybody the right and the ability to make the most of their lives. That's what our policies ought to be about, not trying to tap into the emotions of envy, fear, and anxiety, but to show how we can get back to a pro-growth society where everybody who comes here can have opportunity.
Are you worried, though, that the president's message at every turn, he's saying, listen, I want to deal with income inequality, and my specific ideas are to ask the wealthier to pay more to try and address that situation? There's some Americans who might think that's a great idea.
So it may make for pretty good politics. I won't doubt that. But I think the president's philosophy, his ideas, and his policies are basically an attempt to have a government-controlled economy that seeks to divide people based on income and class, and we reject that. We want an opportunity society. We want an upper mobile society. We want one where everybody can get opportunity. And so we're not going to go down that path. I don't think we should go down that path of trying to try and divide people. That's not America. That's not who we are. We want to have a society where everybody can make it the most of their lives, and we want to have bridges out of poverty and bridges to opportunity. And let's tear down those barriers, and let's not begrudge other people their success. Let's help more people become successful.
Final question, tough vote for you and other members of Congress coming up, and that is whether or not to authorize the use of force against the Islamic State. Where do you think the votes stand right now, and do you support the resolution the President has put forward here in Congress?
I want to look a little more closely at it. I think Congress is probably going to have some changes to that resolution. We need to give our war fighters the tools that they need to successfully complete this mission. I do not want to tie hands behind the backs of the men and women we send forward to complete these missions. I think that's critical But I also do think we should pass an authorization of the use of force. I think we need to speak as one country, both Republicans and Democrats, on a bipartisan basis, to show that we are going to see this fight through, that we will take it, defeat ISIS and this threat to our country. And we need a comprehensive strategy. We don't have one. And I think this authorization of use of force helps us get to one.
Should it limit the use of American boots on the ground?
I don't think you should take any option off the table. I mean, why would we want to telegraph to our enemies what we won't do? I just don't see the wisdom of that.